Yes, this is an audio commentary. I'm sorry.
You found the audio commentary for my top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler, the Spoony one. Blah, blah, blah. Man, did I say that phrase a lot during all these videos. This is Stryker of Enyo, and this happens to be audio commentary number 1 for this video. I actually did 2 commentaries for the main anniversary video. Audio commentary number 1 is going to be informative, but still entertaining. I'm going to cover how I picked each video, how it ended up in the spot that it did. I'll go over deleted content, what I left out, some Easter eggs, and many other scene-specific details. I will still mention my final thoughts on how I treated Spoony with some humanity, but I will also mention my thoughts on what he did and if he will ever return. This will be toward the end, so check the chapters or the video playback bar for the different topics. This commentary is meant for the general viewer that just wants to find out some behind-the-scenes stuff, hear about some of the cut content, and find out about some Easter eggs that might be sitting around. Now, audio commentary number 2, which we'll release a little bit later after the other 2 come out, is going to focus more on the process of making and designing this collection of videos. I'll explain into much more detail how I made these videos. You'll get more of a breakdown on the technical aspects like the audio and editing. I'll cover the writing process more, which actually took quite a while to lock down. I'll be talking about making multiple passes during the editing process, learning new techniques, and trying to cut the video down so that it wouldn't be too long in the end. Audio commentary number 2 will be released after all the other ones come out.
I'll call you. Suddenly I really miss Sliders, the TV show, not the White Castle burgers. Although...
So altogether, we're going to have 4 commentaries that will be released in total, covering all 7 videos that I made. First, we're going to cover the main video, the top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler. Then, in the second commentary, we will cover the 2 side videos, how to find Noah Antwiler videos today, and the top 5 Counter Monkey episodes. In the third one, I will cover all the trailers and music videos / tribute videos that I made. And then in the 4th commentary, we will go back to the original top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler, but I will give you more technical info on the making of the process.
See, now, you're gonna open the door, throw the fucking flashbang in the room. Ah, you fool!
You're looking at around 5 hours worth of commentary in the end. This was easily the most complicated series of videos that I made, so I wanted to get a record of many of the details before I ended up forgetting them myself. This first audio commentary is going to comment on more scene-specific stuff. You can go ahead and shrink down this video a little bit, but you're still going to want to be able to see the screen itself because I will be commenting on things that are happening in the background, specifically as they're happening.
Now, of course, I don't know which cubicle I work in. A common problem among office workers.
Right now, you're probably saying, Stryker, get on with the commentary. I got a hot date tonight, and we're going to do anal for the first time. Start the video.
Do it, you immortal fuck.
Look, this is actually my 4th time recording this audio commentary. It took me this long to figure out I wanted to split up the first top 25 videos into 2 separate ones. So, yeah, there's going to be a number of things that I need to comment on as they pop up on screen. So please just give me a few minutes to set up how this project all started, and then we'll jump into the main video soon after. Don't worry, I even have some different footage of Spoony in the background for you to watch while I do this opening. So let's begin.
And this gunblade are invincible!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to need a shot to explain all this stuff. So, how did this project start? Well, it basically all started with me watching Spoony videos back in February of 2021, just about a year before his actual 15th anniversary was going to happen. This was happening during the winter storm in Texas, where my internet was out for about 3 or 4 days. No, seriously, look at this. Look at all this snow. This is actually Texas. Yes, it all melted within like a day or 2. And then we got more snow, and then that melted, but it was still about 17 degrees during this week. So I was watching all of his videos, and I was getting inspired to do a video on Spoony. I was wondering what month he started uploading and found it was January, and it just so happened that the 15th anniversary of when he started was coming up. At first I thought I could do a better job at making a fall from grace Or one of those, quote, the downward spiral of Noah Antwiler type of videos, right?
Total success, except Gerard died.
Frederick Knudsen did a good one on his Down the Rabbit Hole series. I wanted it to be like a documentary in style where I would point out the early problems that we saw with his personality, all while doing it in the order of events themselves. I thought about all the work that it would take to find things in the order that they happened, but I knew that finding screenshots of the many Twitter rants was going to be key to understanding Spoony's mindset at those times. And I very quickly realized that even though I would do my best to describe how Spoony probably never intended to deceive us from the beginning, and that he simply got overwhelmed and stressed out at a certain point in his life, I knew that I didn't like the overall tone that this video was going to take. I could state facts and what others in the community were saying at the time, but the things I would need to say at certain points, it was going to be sad to hear. So I decided to stay more positive and celebrate the anniversary video with the top 20 videos that he made or was featured in. So I was going through all the videos in February and March. Scripting started in mid-March 2021. I was still working 3 days a week at the time, and by May I started changing my entire video plans for the rest of the year. I decided to hold off releasing the regular Rage Quit and How the F Did I Die episodes. I did a Intellivision Amico E3 reaction supercut video and a couple other react videos, and I separated my previously released top 20 games I regret buying video into 21 separate 5-minute segments for the holidays. Then I recorded several audio commentaries, and then that was it for the year for my main content. The rest of my time was spent on the top 20 videos of Spoony, which ultimately was going to become the top 25 videos during the editing process. I wanted to add even more content to it, but I tried to make the length of the main video somewhat reasonable. I very quickly realized I wasn't going to have enough time, so I broke off those 2 side videos and then made them their own videos, and then also added some trailers and tribute videos and music videos along with it. So instead of spending all this time to make just one 100-minute video, I actually ended up making about 180 plus minutes of content altogether, spread across 3 main videos and 4 short videos. It makes it feel much more like a celebration with 15 years of work when I spread it out across 7 videos, and I released all those videos over the course of 4 weeks.
He wired me on the Ethernet. He's on the other side of the door behind me.
Ah, so he wired you on the Ethernet. Yeah, the Ethernet. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Now let's move on to the main video. Here we go.
You're gonna hate it. Roll the dice, and please, enjoy.
Yeah, I was always going to start with Kept You Waiting, Huh? I always thought that was very fitting to do that as the first thing you see. That is the only time where you actually see Noah's name or the word Spoony on his door, and I believe that's the only time we actually approach his room from that angle. That's one of my favorite shots, is the multi-video monitor thing with the silhouette of Spoony with the sword. That's from the Final Fantasy 13 review, I believe. But yeah, that's the only time we actually ever approach Spoony's room from that angle, so I thought that was kind of a nice way of starting off the celebration, is, you know, approaching Spoony's room like he's our good friend down the hallway that we've never seen before. I don't know. I will probably go into more detail about the script and the script process in audio commentary number 2, but this intro itself and the wording to it, I redid about 4 times. I really did work on it. I was really trying to find the right blend or the right balance of language. This whole rating system is a complete lie. It's total BS. It's kind of weird. I just didn't. I'm sorry if it seems like, oh, he lied to us. It's like, no, I just wanted you to think that I really took this seriously, and I did. You know, this wasn't some list that I just threw together in, you know, the amount of time of a month, like many YouTubers would probably do. You know, I really did spend 10 to 11 months, you know, scripting and writing and putting all these things in order. And I felt like if I said I had this you know, rating system attached to them, that well, maybe, you know, your ears would perk up a little bit and be like, oh, okay, he took this seriously. You know, unlike some people. And ultimately, you know, a rating system is relatively arbitrary anyway, right? I mean, it's something that I would see, but I literally only made about 3 of them, and because I knew I at least wanted to have 2 of them on screen to show as an example. But, you know, even though I fabricated that, I did keep the idea of those categories in my mind, like anger level and originality and overall entertainment value. Like, you know, I had those categories in the back of my mind as I was going through all these videos. So even though I didn't quantify it with a number, you know, I still had it, you know, it was still there, and I still, you know, thought of it every time I looked at a video. And ultimately, I mean, does it matter whether a video had anger level of 10 or 9? You know, like, well, what's the difference, you know? And originality between the difference of a 5 or a 7? I mean, are you going to notice that? Well, no, it's for me. And honestly, you know, yeah, it's kind of arbitrary whether I give it originality a 5 or a 7. I mean, he's reviewing a video game. How many different ways can you review it? Well, but you can bring in other elements, right? But so yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to mislead anybody, but I wanted you to take it seriously like I did. I took this thing very seriously, and you know, I really did take my time. I just didn't write a number for every one of those categories. And this is from the Final Fantasy 13. I like this, the Final Fantasy 13 review. I like this freeze frame on him. These rules, I usually put rules in my lists just to kind of keep things, you know, like this is why I didn't include this video or that video. I mostly have it there to let you know that I was combining any multi-part videos into a single video. You know, it was just easier. I did this way early. There was no way I was going to, you know, I instantly knew I was not going to award the #1 slot to, you know, Ultima 9 review part 2. Like, that's really the best one. And it's like, and then, you know, and the #6 slot would be the Ultima 9 review part 3. And it's like, that just seemed silly, you know, and it's like, well, how do you quantify, you know, which part is better? So I just combined them all. It was just an easy thing to do. And that also meant that the Let's Plays would be one video. But honestly, you know, when looking back on this thing, it's, you know, it's actually kind of nice that I combined all the Ripper Let's Play and the Phantasmagoria basically into one entry. You know, it just works. It makes sense. You know, and I'm trying to think. I think I need a shot of my energy drink. Hang on. On the forums, some fans were very vocal about all the special that's the good stuff. Oh, no, it's not a beer. I don't drink while commentating. It's just an energy drink. I am not, you know, I don't believe in audio commentating under the influence. And it has one outrageous scene. You know, I do enjoy this one. It does only have maybe a handful of moments. I still to this day, you know, I do remember it more fondly than some of the other ones, kind of like I said. But, and it is one of the highlights. It is, you know, that karate chop is basically what this video is known for. After all these years, I still remember it more fondly than several others. But yeah, when we get to the next one, I'll explain. But yeah, all the multi-part stuff I was going to combine into just one video. Because, yeah, it was just easier. It makes total sense. Oh, yeah, the Game Crazy. So Spoony did a lot of riffing, and I actually explained what riffing is because, I mean, you might not know what the term is. Now, I had always, you know, I grew up with Mystery Science Theater 3000 and a lot of people my age, and if you were around in the 90s, you know, you probably, you know, saw them because even though they started on like local television stations to begin with, they did move on to the Sci-Fi Channel for a while. Before they ended up getting canceled, and now this is obviously footage of the newer version, that the new reboot on Netflix. But yeah, so Mystery Science Theater 3000, that was something that was, you know, like we all knew about it. You know, Linkara, you know, Lewis Lovehog, you know, Doug Walker, a lot of them would end up riffing on videos, and that's all because of the fact of, you know, it wasn't just a thing that you do on the internet like it might be considered now, but it was because of Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was because that show, you know, really did forge a I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know, it's being able to add your comments on top of a bad movie, you know, and show them to your friends. You know, that's where it all started. And I figured, you know what, if you're 20 or younger, you might not know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is. So I figured a great description of them was those guys in silhouette that make fun of older movies.
And they cost less. Booyah! Now, for the real hardcore...
And you might notice that like Zelda Scott, you can see that she actually does, like, her name shows up on screen, but it's cut off. And I remember Spoony saying in one of his other audio commentaries is that he didn't want to have black bars on the sides of his videos for some reason, because like he would present things in widescreen, you know, 16:9. But if he had a source that was 4:3, you know, it seemed like he said his only options were to zoom into the image, you know, which means it would basically crop off the bottom and top of the image, or that he would stretch the gameplay footage in order to fill the screens. And that's what he would do with like Final Fantasy X. You know, he actually stretched all that footage to fit the frame, you know, so everyone looks kind of squat and fat. And I never really liked that. I always believe in keeping the original aspect ratio, you know, not only when playing the games, but when presenting them to other people. I don't know if it was a limit to the technology of, you know, whatever program he was using back in the day. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, like he would often comment. That's why the clones of Bruce Lee, I believe he zoomed in on that footage. So it looks like really, really close, and it's hard to tell what's going on. I mean, that's why, because yeah, he either zooms in or he stretches it. So that's why some stuff of his would seem kind of odd. This is Lords of Magic, you know. I guess I should address the proverbial white elephant in the room. I think somebody in the comment section actually brought it up like a couple months after this video actually did come out. And I thought about it myself, but someone said, hey, Stryker, where the hell is the Highlander 2 review? And, you know, Minority Report, I really think that should be on the list too. But, I mean, clearly, you know, slot number 25 or 24, I could have thrown in Highlander 2, right? And it's like, you know what? I ended up asking myself that exact same question, like, after, like, 9 months of work. I think it was either the video was done, or it was like a week before I was going to release it, or it was a week after. And I think I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about Highlander 2. And it's like, well, no, you didn't. You watched everything. I watched everything 3 times. You know, it just didn't stand out to me. You know, like, I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. It has a couple of great lines, like, why am I in a Star Trek uniform? You know, and the how do you butt F an entire series in 12 minutes? It has a couple of great little moments, and he gets angry at it, but in no way did I ever think that it was, you know, it was necessarily better than this review of Minority Report, you know, on a technical level, or even just, you know, entertainment-wise, honestly. Maybe it was because I had Highlander Endgame was, you know, in the number 2 slot, and I had gone through, obviously, or not, no, Highlander the Source. Highlander the Source was going to be in the number 2 slot. You know, after a while, I knew that. And, like, I had watched, you know, the Highlander Endgame review with him and Pat, and, you know, that just seemed more like it was an audio or it was like they were commenting on stuff that was happening on screen. It didn't seem as necessarily, you know, that great of a video. It was like, okay, let's talk about Highlander Endgame. Like, oh, okay, like, this is I like this part, I don't like this part. You know, that's just how it seemed, so...
Looks like you're the one who got the shaft.
Yeah, that musical sting was not in the original. I actually added that, you know, the musical sting from The Who, most famous by the CSI Miami TV series intro. And Spoony has shown that several times, but yeah, it felt like that should be there, and it's not in the original, so I just added it. And it's not because he didn't want the video to get content ID'd, copyright claimed, because that wasn't a thing back then when the video first came out. But so yeah, I added that to it. It was in no way in there, and I didn't get content ID'd for it myself. You know, it's really short and it goes by pretty quick. But yeah, that's why Highlander 2 is not in here. It could have easily been in the number 25 slot to them in one attempt. But once you get to mission 6, the Red Dead Library, for whatever reason, and maybe you could argue that on a technical level, you know, he definitely did work on the Clones of Bruce Lee a lot more than the other ones, you know, even though it might not be as entertaining maybe as Highlander 2. But yeah, Highlander 2 was just okay, I guess, but it could have easily been swapped out. So if it's your favorite, swap that out at number 25. But quite honestly, like this here is the reason why I expanded this video into the top 25, is because the SWAT 4, you know, the Mission 6 video, that ended up in spot number 21. It got pushed back a little bit, and I was like, I have to include SWAT 4. I have to. So, you know, I can't have a top 20 list of the best Spoony stuff and not mention SWAT 4. I wanted to highlight it for you, so I expanded it to the top 25, and that included Minority Report, because I really do feel like that is a good video, you know, with the different balls and his scripting and whatnot. You know, that one actually does come together pretty good. But yeah, the whole reason we're here is because of that. And you'll see in the bottom corner, I have like which mission the video is from. You know, that is if you know, to show you that I'm actually taking footage, obviously, from like mission 12 and 13 and 10, you know, so that like there's 10 right there. You know, so you know I'm taking it from different, different videos. I'm not just grabbing everything from video number 6. If it doesn't have a description of, you know, which mission it's from, for the most part, then it should be from mission 6. But like that, see, like that's 13, that's 12. So like this is going by pretty quick, and like this is, I don't do this in the other ones because, you know, I consider the missions to be kind of separate. It's not all one Let's Play, but yeah, you know, to let you know that I am rapidly cutting through a lot of different footage, you know, in a lot of different videos. But if you like it, then please watch the rest of the series as well. The last 2 are a little weak, number 14 and number 15, but the rest are worth the time to track them down. I can't talk about the energy drink quite yet.
But why would you turn the water on?
I had like 3 different endings of, you know, Spoony finishing and then that music would cut in. I had like 3 different ones to use. I picked that one. DOA, dead or alive. And like I was trying to say, you know, like once you get to entry number 20, you know, everything after that, I really do stand by what order I put it in. You know, you could argue that, you know, entry number 25, 24, and 23, you know, like you could kind of just slot in whatever favorite video that's personal to you. You could throw them in there and it would relatively work, but I really do stand by Minority Report. You know, there's a lot of stuff to it, a lot of, not necessarily costume changes, but, you know, a lot of effort was put into that one, I really felt. And this one, I really did like this one, even though he doesn't even do no, he doesn't even do a costume change, I don't believe. But, you know, this is classic, you know, Spoony. This is what the fans, you know, like now. They like, you know, Spoony to just, you know, him and the camera, him talking to you about the movie, and maybe, you know, maybe one costume change here and there. We have the basic plot of a and this really is the best out of all the video game the video game fighting games.
Welcome to you, villain. I'm sorry. Has there ever been a guy in a
I mean, really, no, really. I mean, you know, this is, you know, some of the better scripting for this one. I mean, I watched them all, of course, but DOA, I have always enjoyed this one. is absurd. The secondary characters are wasted.
And what I end up saying here is true. You know, Corey Yuen, the director of the first Transporter movie, he is the director of this movie, and that's I remember the ass counter. Spoony retired the ass counter at some point during one of the Final Fantasy reviews, and he brought it back just to have it blow up in this review.
And guess what? This is hot chicks in bikinis. Helena's ass is unbelievable.
The fight sequences are
But yeah, the fight sequences really aren't too bad.
Even though you might not know who Eric Roberts
And, you know, this, unfortunately, like, this is also the last movie that Corey Yuen would direct. You know, but he would still be a stunt coordinator and, you know, second unit director. He would go on to direct, you know, bigger epics like Red Cliff. But as far as American movies, well, as far as movies in general, you know, aside from all these that I'm showing that he actually did direct, you know, yeah, he basically would move on to stunt coordinator, you know, fight choreographer. And I was going to mention that, but it's kind of like, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's not like this was such a horrible experience that he decided to quit directing after this movie. It's like, no, I mean, maybe it didn't make a whole lot of, you know, money, but it seemed to be a relatively fun movie. It seemed like he was having fun, you know, during it. It's just, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're a stunt coordinator, you know, you can do that job a lot better than you can directing, even though, you know, by directing stunts and knowing what you're looking for, you know, that kind of translates to, you know, also, you know, being a director in general. So it'd be, I'd have like little things like that on every movie or every one of these reviews, you know, little informative things that Spoony never touched on back in the day. But, you know, several times I almost cut out the fact that, you know, that I mentioned that Corey Yuen was the director. But, you know, like I basically had all that info pop up on screen quick enough for you. Like, oh, yeah, you know, he did, you know, Fong Sai Yuk, #1 and #2, which is, you know, legend. You know, in the U.S., that's what it was called there. And this description of Spoony, you know, mentioning all this, I was going to have my own version of it, but you know what? He pretty much, you know, covers it pretty well. He kind of explains it to you. Normally, I would try not to have like 40 and 50-second long segments of just Spoony, because it's like, you know, I'm trying to move on to something else. You know, I can't afford to, you know, burn through all my Spoony time, my allotted Spoony time, you know, which is, you know, what I had. You know, I always imagined that I was having a minute of Spoony footage on all these videos, right? You know, that's what I end up covering in the other audio commentary, is that, like, you know, I was trying to make every one of these about 400 words long, you know, every segment, and I was trying to make it so that, you know, like, I talked about the video, you know, for 3 minutes, and then I had 1 minute of footage of Spoony, you know, and that's what I was trying to do. You know, I was trying to have that kind of balance, because I wanted you to be able to hear Spoony, you know, like that was the whole point. And then we find out about the gaydar, of course. That's, you know, totally awesome. But yeah, I mean, this is also another review. Like, this definitely deserves to be here. You know, it might not be Wing Commander, it might not be a Reb Brown movie, but, you know, Spoony, friggin' Benzai. You know, Spoony, I mean, Benzai, I still try to watch Benzai's stuff on his YouTube channel, but everything is in French now, so it's kind of hard. Or I should say it's impossible. If he's got English subtitles, I can watch them. I always liked his Hard Corner, and his other stuff I would always watch. But yeah, most of his stuff is all exclusively in French, so I can't understand it. But yes, he's been shown dancing in Spoony videos about at least 4 times, as far as I know. There's like 2 different versions of this particular dance that he does. Then there's the Conan one. Then there's the one of him dancing in front of Angry Joe, but is that more of a... That may be more for that guy with the glasses Anniversary. But yeah, there's a few times that he is shown dancing. And this really was true. Like, this at the time, this was one of the only times when you had a self-referential thing was, the NES version of Total Recall. That was the only time I could think of it. But then, like, literally as I was making this video in November of that year, Halo Infinite comes out, and then it has, a Halo Infinite arcade game. But, you couldn't necessarily play it. It wasn't quite the same. And then all of a sudden, Matrix Resurrections comes out at the end of November, and they show footage from the previous movies in their movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's like it was so bad that, like, during the classic talk with Morpheus in the new movie, they actually had the footage from the original movie of him talking to Morpheus showing in the background. And it's like, normally you just don't do that in a movie. You don't break the fourth wall like that. They tried to exclaim that it was what was it? It was footage from the video games, but it was from the movie. And it seems really out of place, because it's like you could have just as easily actually used footage from either Enter the Matrix, the video game, or The Path of Neo, because I'm sure the Morpheus, talk is in both of those, if not at least one of them. So as that's one of those things where you think of something and you put it in your script, and then like literally as you're editing, two more things pop up that also contradict what you just said. So I quickly threw them in there. I had watched I didn't watch the Matrix movie yet as of the making of this video, but I have now. I have actually watched the whole thing. Using someone else's footage. Power Rangers is well recognized for doing this, but they do it in this seems weird. Maybe you didn't know about Game Over, but like I really think that this is, one of the better ones. Spoony is definitely really good on scripting. This is such a bad movie. I honestly started to do research on making my own review of it. And like he does a good job. And he did all the FMV Hell videos of his own back in the day, and I felt like he really did a pretty good job. I like the black and white version of Spoony by his chair. Yes, I could have easily took a picture of him not being there in the background, but I decided, why not have his little head pop up. But yeah, it instead of using footage from the one game that got canceled, apparently it didn't give them enough footage, so they ended up adding 4 more Sega CD games in there. It's really weird. I mean, Spoony says they use like 35 minutes of footage. Although in the in some of the listings I noticed, like, they say it's 25 minutes of footage. I think 35 is way too much, but even then,
none of us have long left.
I'm a virgin, sir.
Oh my God! No, you're not. You're a relatively attractive white male that looks like he could be on the football team. You are not still a virgin. Some girl, would have thrown herself at you, in high school or at least by now, being 19, or he's probably like, what, 20, 22, 25, the actual actor. But the dialogue is just so bad. It's almost incomprehensible that another human being would talk to another human being in this way. The dialogue is often so bad. And like I researched the guy, like he was a script writer for some documentaries at first. Then he went on to that movie. But yeah, this is the only costume like that Spoony does. And like I really like this costume, the sunglasses, the mustache. Like that all works pretty well. Like I like that, just the one costume change, he works on the script like that, that is the prototypical, modern Spoony, I believe, is, he doesn't do like extra special effects. He doesn't go overboard on stuff. He tries to keep it relatively simple. He works on his script a bit more than usual. And the one thing that he does say that I don't necessarily believe in is that he says, what's worse than, playing a Sega CD FMV game? And he says, watching someone else play a Sega CD FMV game. And obviously, now, Twitch is all about watching other people play video games. So I actually think it's with the right person in mind. It's actually entertaining watching someone else
you know, play and react to a Sega CD FMV game. You would find, since most game companies didn't even have a budget for hiring professionals. And the reason why Johnny Mnemonic is actually still on here is because, you know what? It's not on. Well, let me comment. Like, this is one of the few times that I actually got to interject my own comedy. Is having the janitor, you know, do voice work. Also having the little kid piss on Aquaman's face, then hiding in SeaWorld. In the review itself, Spoony says something about, you know, punching Aquaman in the face and then hiding in SeaWorld, or ticking off Aquaman in some way. But I added the pissing on his face, and then I did those graphics. So that part was mine, but the overall idea of that, you know, you don't tick off Aquaman and then hide in SeaWorld. You know, that was the overall thing. Like I was saying, the reason why, you know, this is on the list is because, you know, not only does he do a good job, but it's also a rare look at a game that is relatively hard to get running, at least on PCs. You know, at the time of release of this video, which is, 2009 or something? Like, this is one of his early ones, 2008, 2009. You know, this movie, I mean, this game is not on GOG.com. You know, along with several others that you see. The Mega Race, you know, there's 2 of those games. Those are actually on GOG. But like Critical Path that you saw earlier, that's still not on GOG. Some of these, like Crime Patrol and whatnot, you know, they're not on there. You know, not all of them. The Wing Commanders are, of course. This page is a lie. This does not exist. There's no way to search for FMV games on GOG.com. So I basically just took the background. I blacked out the whatever search results that I had originally seen, and then I throw in like Toonstruck and you know, the Star Wars Assault game, and I put in a couple other ones. I should have put Wing Commander. The whole idea was that I was trying to put on FMV games that had multiple discs. You know, like, you know, being able to have a one single file is really you know, is really nice, instead of having to constantly be swapping between, you know, 4 or even 6 CDs. I still stand by what I'm saying right here today, that, you know, Spoony, even though you're going to see Ultima 9 in the #1 spot, of course, sorry, spoilers, but I really do stand by the fact that, you know, for people, if you know Spoony and you know his videos, he is most well known for being linked to Final Fantasy. And then maybe his Ultima videos after that is probably going to easily be a close second, but, you know, third, you know, really should be his movies from Redbound. I can't even talk. I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of audio commentaries. Red Brown really should be the #3 spot, because he did 21 videos total focused on Red Brown. Now that includes the audio commentary and the April Fool's Day video. So otherwise, 19 full reviews. I don't include the one Frank Stallone review that he did, even though it was kind of done in the same style as his Red Brown reviews. And even though he mentions Red Brown in that review, I don't necessarily include that as part of it, because it's not a Red Brown movie, of course. He's not in it at all, so... this editing is pretty fast. I have to, you know, keep in mind that what I'm talking about in the original script, you know, like, I have to get through it. I have to show you, you know, that Saruman is leaning down, about to stab this lady, and it's like I'm trying to give you like half-second little clips to let you know what the events are happening. So, you know, like some of the stuff that you are seeing from these different reviews are semi-heavily edited. You know, in order to make everything fit.
Vampires, isn't it?
To Transylvania.
Ah, yes, Transylvania. Well known for its werewolves. How do you fuck that up? So they unpack, and is that a chain of garlic?
Yeah, this is one of the, this is probably the top 3 most mainstream Red Brown movies to watch. You know, his most mainstream, and also probably
most well known. You know, Robowar isn't. I mean, that's more of a cult classic. You know, that's kind of been known in other circles, not just because of Spoony. You know, as being a relatively, you know, weird and odd movie. And like I didn't have time to mention that that dwarf actually, you know, with the eyes popped out, like he's not dead. He actually lives and attacks Red Brown later in the movie. But you know, I had to cut some stuff. I ended up rewriting this thing about, you know, JonTron doing it. I really tried to cut this down pretty quickly, you know, to the absolute basics. And I rewatched the JonTron episode, you know, like he reviewed the movie and he gets like 12 million views. You know, Spoony's is like maybe 300,000, 600,000 at best. You know, and it's like, no, it was probably only 200,000 or 300,000 views. And I completely enjoyed Spoony's version a whole lot better. You know, what I say is true, that, you know, JonTron doesn't even mention Red Brown by name. He doesn't even mention the guy's acting that is screaming and shooting guns. He doesn't mention him at all. He's basically just there for, you know, Saruman, basically. And you know, that's kind of a shame. That really is all the Final Fantasy games for the most part that come after 7. 14 wasn't in there, I believe, and Spoony actually has done a live wire, or he's tried to play some of those. Like he tried to do, he did a live wire of him playing Final Fantasy 9 that lasted about like an hour and a half. I think it was Final. I don't know if it was Final Fantasy 11, but it might have been Final Fantasy 14. The online version. Like he played it for about 20 minutes and then got to the part where I don't think he got past the character selection screen, or no, character creation, I should say. I don't think he got past that, because once he got to the characters that were basically underage girls that you would make, you know, look attractive and pretty, I think that pretty much solidified his views on that game, and I don't think he liked the art style in that one either. So yeah, he stopped on that. I've never seen him. He's never played or tried to play 13-2 yet, but his Final Fantasy 13 review alludes to him continuing on with that. Final Fantasy 8, man, there was. I had, what was it? Final Fantasy 8. I had 46 minutes of footage set aside. So when I was organizing these videos, I knew that I needed to be able to pull footage from multiple videos at a handful of given times. I needed to set aside clips from specific videos on a separate video timeline. You know, I couldn't just throw in every full-length video I needed clips from in my main project. There would just be no room. So I organized them in a different way than usual. It's probably standard practice. It might seem more amateurish the way that I do it, but I never got, you know, professional training in, you know, Adobe Premiere Pro. It's just what I've taught myself. So what I ended up doing is I ended up creating 3 additional projects. In Premiere Pro, each new file is essentially known as a project. It's not a document. So like you don't open a new file, you know, you open a new project. So sorry for the confusion. But each of those 3 grew to having nearly 3.5 hours of clips taken from various Spoony videos, at least over 3 hours each. You know, this was handy so I could take all the clips that I wanted to use highlights from and then copy and insert them into when I needed to use them, like for making a trailer or something else. So yeah, I had 46 minutes of Final Fantasy VIII footage, you know, clips from all the videos that I would probably end up using. And then I threw that, you know, I had that setting aside. Now, I don't know, like, I always liked this boy or girl, you know, type game show thing. I don't know if you younger generations find it offensive, but I mean, this is what, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, it's like, this is, you know, sometimes this is just what would happen in Japanese role-playing games, is that you would have a character that would, you know, would look female but had masculine qualities, or you would have, a character that was, you know, that looked male but had like female characteristics, and we really weren't quite sure if it was a boy or a girl. So, you know, it didn't happen a whole lot, but it was just a thing that, you know, every once in a while you'd be like, is this supposed to be a dude? And like, you know, because the game, you know, didn't cater much to those characters. So sometimes it wasn't actually spelled out to you in the game itself. You know, like it was just a character in the background that, you know, looked feminine, acted maybe kind of feminine, but like, you know, it didn't have much dialogue. So you never really got to find out, you know, what it was. But yeah, that was just, I always liked that because, you know, you really would run into a Japanese RPG that would have, you know, because of the character designer or because of, you know, the particular artist, you know, sometimes you couldn't always tell, you know, what gender the character is supposed to be. You know, this is way before the 58 or the 59 different pronouns. You know, this is, you know, those didn't exist yet. You know, it's like you played a game and you're like, is that mommy? Is that supposed to be a girl or is it a boy? And then mom looks at the screen and she's like, I don't know. You're like, okay. I mean, because, you know, how's mom gonna know, you know, what character in a Final Fantasy game is supposed to be? You know, whatever.
Pump the Ultimate Warrior's head until he sprays all over your children. Ooh.
All right, just pause the video here for just a quick little bit. I had a few additional things to mention about Final Fantasy VIII. I couldn't get to them in the proper audio commentary, and I didn't want to put this at the end of this audio commentary because I started to talk about Spoony and my viewpoint on Spoony and him coming back and all that, and I wanted that to be the end of that audio commentary. I didn't want to all of a sudden cut back to Final Fantasy VIII. But there was some content that for the Final Fantasy VIII section that I had to cut out, so let's just go over that really quickly. I basically wanted to mention that you might end up getting a little confused when you start watching the Final Fantasy VIII review and you get to part 10 called Time Loop. This video was originally released on April 1st, and a long-time tradition of Spoonies has been to do a little something different for April Fools. In this case, his goal was to do an exaggerated manic review of a classic good game. So he was basically parodying his own style by overanalyzing the plot of the original Final Fantasy on NES. You know, back when plots were very basic. So I just wanted people to be aware of this because it comes off as almost being like overly angry at the original Final Fantasy game without having much substance to it or not really having a reason to do it. And you might think that this is kind of weird and out of place. And of course, if you're watching this video on another site, you're not going to know that the original release date was April 1st. Now, when I do my own videos and I have released something on April 1st that, you know, goes in a different direction, or maybe it makes claim to something that I normally wouldn't do, I usually end up going back to the video after a couple of weeks or whatnot, you know, after April 1st, you know, ends up kind of dying down a little bit. I try to put in the title that this is an April Fool's video, so that anybody else that ends up running into it, like, oh, okay, you know, that they get it. Because I think I posted a video one time and it was like at 3:00 in the morning, but it posted as being the end of March. So it didn't actually show up as April 1st for the release date. So I learned my mistake there. It's like, you know, if you have to wait till 7 in the morning to, you know, release a video, just do it because at least it'll get credit for being April 1st. But in my own videos, I try to actually put April Fools in the title itself, unless you're going to actually say April Fools in the video, which I've seen that done before too. You know, just so people know that you're coming from a kind of a jokey, you know, standpoint. But anyway, but yeah, when you look at part 10, Time Loop, it just seems like it's a regular review for Spoony, and he actually ended up commenting in one of the video descriptions that he made it and tried to see who would take the flame bait. But I honestly believe that he didn't really go overboard enough to make it seem like he was parodying his own style. So I basically, you know, I had like a paragraph basically mentioning that, and I didn't end up using any footage from part 10 because of that fact. It's basically just him reviewing the original NES game, but I didn't want people to think that that was his true feelings on it. since it was an April Fool's video. So, you know, it is what it is. And that was the kind of things that I had to cut out, you know, interesting things or things that might catch you off guard if you didn't know it was an April Fool's video. But, you know, I just didn't have time. I believe my Final Fantasy VIII review was already like I got it down to 5.5 minutes. And I'm sure at one point it was over 6 minutes long. So it's like I had to cut it down. So little interesting like Easter egg stuff like this, I had to cut it out. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that maybe it seems like overall I wanted to that I basically was being overly positive when it came to Spoony and his videos in this video itself. And you know, as the kids say, it seems like you really wanted to suck his D. And it's like, no, I wasn't trying to S his D. I was you know, I had criticisms. I had valid criticisms on several of his videos, but when it came to, you know, well, what do you cut out? Do you cut out a funny part that Spoony is talking, or do you cut out your somewhat maybe halfway valid criticisms for his video? So what would often happen is I would end up cutting out my criticisms for his video. You know, in the Ultima 9 review, I had specifically said that he uses certain phrases and whatnot way too much. And I think I believe I cut that out of the final video. I don't think it's in there. You know, things like obviously the, you know, what's a paladin? He actually says that, I believe, about 7 or 8 times in the actual review. I believe I cut it down so that you only hear 4 of them. That's why there's kind of like a cross dissolve that goes from him mentioning that to his explanation of it. I understand that he repeats certain things in order to try to get the point across, but it's like, you know, 2 or 3 times is plenty. You know, you don't need to do it 5 times. And there was also the, you know, your knowledge of the land shall be great. I believe you actually hear that 5 times in one specific part of the review. And overall, you end up hearing it at least 8 times, I believe. And like, you know, that's too much. Like, I understand that, you know, in humor, you have what they call the rule of 3. So it's like, you know, you mention something once and it's funny. Then you mention it a second time and yeah, maybe it's not as funny. And then like toward the end of your, whatever you're doing, you know, you bring up that thing for a 3rd time and then suddenly it's magically become even more funny. And, you know, that's a nice little sentiment. But when you're talking about like, I've seen people do that in a 10-minute video and they do like 2 of them nearly back to back. And then they bring up, you know, then they bring up the 3rd thing only a minute later. And it's like, you know, no, that, you know, not for a 10-minute video. You know, even a 30-minute video, you know, you bring up something 3 times and it might seem like you're bringing it up too much. But yeah, that was one criticism I had, but ultimately I had to cut that because I just didn't have, you know, the room for it. Or, you know, sometimes when you have, you know, even valid criticisms for somebody, it might seem like you're overreaching maybe, or it might seem like you're kind of nitpicking. And so, yeah, I ended up cutting out some of that stuff. So I did have some criticisms, but I just ended up cutting it out. And the other main thing is that, you know, since, you know, even though I believe Spoony's Final Fantasy VIII review was really good, in the last year or 2, there's actually been several people, especially with the new remastered versions of Final Fantasy VIII. There's been people that have come and have done some deep dives into Final Fantasy VIII and have basically reiterated exactly Spoony's feeling about the game, but they've also done it in a much better and more concise way than Spoony. Like Pro Jared, you know, regardless of how you feel about the man himself or his past, you got to admit that he is really good at reviewing Final Fantasy games. And his review of Final Fantasy VIII, it's 35 minutes, but he basically calls out, you know, why the script doesn't work, you know, why the plot is so, you know, just it doesn't work, why the characters don't work, and you know the whole triple triad, you know, why it's a pain to play, the whole thing of stealing, you know, stealing different magic abilities or no magic spells from other creatures. You know, he talks about that, and he talks about that, you know, yeah, you can also get them through triple triad by winning, but you're not guaranteed to win. At least if you're stealing the spells individually, at least you're guaranteed to get them that way. So it's really just a second form of busy work doing the exact same thing. So like he covers all of that and he does it beautifully in the span of 35 minutes.
no, he's not funny like Spoony. That's why Spoony is Spoony, right? But you also have the Completionist. He did a review on Final Fantasy VIII. Gerard Dragon Rider Khalil, I believe is his name. He ended up working for G4 Network, the new G4. But he did a Final Fantasy VIII review, essentially, where he goes through the game, and that video is an hour and 22 minutes long. And, he brings up all the stuff that's been negative about the game as well. So, he does a much better job at conveying that than, Spoony did back in the day. But remember, Spoony did this back in, he did the follow-up stuff in, 2010 or 2009. And I think his original review stuff was, 2008. So, Spoony did this a long time ago. But, yeah, in recent, there's been a few newer people that have taken a look at the game, and they've done maybe a better job than Spoony, but they don't necessarily have the charisma that Spoony does. Kim Justice, she did a complete story and review of Final Fantasy VIII, and that is 3 hours and 47 minutes. Like I said, back when Spoony did it, it was kind of uncommon to have someone spend over an hour talking about a game, because you could only do it in 10-minute pieces at a time, 10 minutes per video. That was the limit. So, nowadays, yeah, sometimes you will find someone do a review that's 2 or even 3 hours long. But yeah, she covers it too, and she does a marvelous job as well. So by simple virtue of these people, coming back and also using footage from the remastered version, they really do a better job than Spoony. But, that's why the Final Fantasy VIII review isn't as high on my list as it might seem. And clearly, the Final Fantasy X is really, one of his best pieces of work. I mean, it's not about necessarily all the technical aspects and, the fact that Spoony doesn't get everything right. I mean, Spoony was doing this 10 years, 10 years before a lot of other people. So that was another thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention the reviews by Pro Jared and the Completionist and Kim Justice, and, all their effort and time into also analyzing this. And they also come to some of the same conclusions that Spoony did, but I didn't have time. Final Fantasy VIII was already a long review, so I had to cut some stuff. So that's what it is. So, hey, thanks for listening to this little part. Let's resume the video and see what else I had to say. But yeah, so that's how I organized the footage. This is one of the videos that surprised me. This is one of the ones that, I didn't think this was going to be in the top 25, but, after watching it, and it's like, man, he really goes into a lot of effort. He's got all these costumes. He covers, the board game itself is relatively, it's anemic. Who cares, right? It's not done well. It's just a cash grab. And he takes that angle and then he runs with it and does the bath time toy. Like, this is the best version of the Hulkamania outfit that we ever have seen, with the glasses in the background. And it's not too often that Spoony would take out the blue screen, but he, unlike Angry Joe, who just uses it every review and is always using it, but sometimes, when Spoony would use the blue screen, it would look good.
What's a video game? You stop making sex tapes. In fact, stop.
But yeah, this was a lot of fun. This one, it caught me by surprise. I didn't think that this, I probably assumed that Highlander 2 was going to be in the top 25. No, honestly, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. Oh, this is footage of Macho Man. I will probably blur this or obscure it, because it basically gets a content ID visually. That and the footage of the Ultimate Warrior a little bit later on. So yeah, if that screen is blurry and black and white, that's why. I just, not that I'm going to get a lot of people watching my audio commentary, but I want to be able to earn, a couple of dollars on this audio commentary, if you guys don't mind watching it. So it's like, yeah, if I can, stop it from getting content ID'd or claimed in any way, I will probably blur that WWE footage, because I know that got claimed, because that footage is actually from it's from a documentary called the Meltdown of the Ultimate Warrior. It's something like that. So any footage you use, basically ends up getting claimed like that. Back in 2009, Doug Walker gave Linkara and Spoony plane. Am I gonna wait? I'm gonna wait. Yeah, because we got Ripper and Phantasmagoria. I got a list of topics here.
Doug wanted to review a movie with Noah Antwiler and Louis Lovehog, and he knew he wanted it to be one of the most popular movies directed by... Oh, quickly, I'll mention that I'll mention Final Fantasy VIII later, right? Yeah, I mean, I have to. Okay. A lot of the technical aspects, like the editing process, that's going to be an audio commentary number 2 for this particular video. So a lot of these topics I originally have, I moved them over. The video was still mostly Doug's. Years later, the 3 schmuckheads would return. This is still one of my favorite ones. These guys here. And this one works much better. The other 2 side videos that I keep mentioning, I ended up removing them quite early. You know, originally the How to Find Noah Antwiler Videos Today segment was going to be at the very end of this video, just after the end credit sequence. The top 4 Counter Monkey episodes segment was going to be done like a short, honorable mentions, like just before entry number 1. You know, kind of the way that Screw Attack did when they did their top 10s. They would have a recap, before they would show number 1. And that was what the top 4 Counter Monkey episodes was going to be. Both those segments were going to be like 4 minutes long. But once my original audio edit for this video came out at 1 hour and 25 minutes, before I edited it down, I knew I would need to cut both. So getting the audio down to as close as 1 hour is what I was aiming for. And I quickly decided to make each of those segments into a separate video. I already had been watching the Counter Monkey episodes 2 times all the way through, and I really wanted to feature the series. I really wanted to feature Counter Monkey during this anniversary. So yeah, since I couldn't squeeze it in here, that's what I decided to do. Talking about Spoony without mentioning, Counter Monkey was out of the question. So it became its own video. And this, regardless of what you might think, Meatloaf is here because he just happens to be here. It's not because he ended up passing away due to complications from COVID. Because I believe that happened like in February or something. Like there's no way I would have been able to, to honor Meatloaf. That just sounds really stupid. That phrasing of honoring Meatloaf. It's like, no, he just happened to be here. He was already there. He was one of the highlights of this particular video anyway. One of the funnier segments. So he just happened to be there. And any kid that was around during the early 90s, I mean, you know about Meatloaf. If anything, because of the one song, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. That was huge in 92, I believe. It was like number 1 in 30 different countries. So, like that kind of put him on the map. Meatloaf didn't do too much after this, for the most part. Nothing really worthwhile, but he ended up being in a lot of subpar movies later on. This is one of the best collaborations where Spoony probably didn't write or direct most of the video himself, but you can still. And this is, these are entertaining. I wanted to put a little bit of variety, so having, because you could argue that any of the collaboration videos aren't good enough to be put on this list. Aside from, okay, maybe Warrior number 1, right? But yeah, I didn't necessarily want to. I figured I had plenty of stuff, right? But it's like I wanted to include a video or 2 of Spoony working with somebody else, just to actually put that into the mix. And I thought, definitely the ones with the 3 knuckleheads, schmuckheads, sorry. That really was one of the better ones. But then realized the only option that he had left. So I put that one in. And again, you gotta, keep in mind, I am heavily editing this, like opening up that granola bar and leaning down and picking up the rat, like all of that. It takes like 2 minutes, like 2 or 3 solid minutes. And it's like I have to cut all of that and basically show it to you within the span of like 5 seconds, because I have to have it kind of match, my dialogue. But, this is actually, that exact folder. I was going to comment on the fact that I don't know why it says I created these files in 1969. That is not a reference to 69 itself. If I would have had a little bit longer to think about that, I would have made it its own little segment, but I had to cut stuff out. So, no, I don't know why it says 1969. It sometimes would glitch when you move files from one hard drive to the other. Like that actually wasn't there on originally, only on I think those files. Like this is heavily edited, like the part where Spoony says, "I have a photographic memory of all the times I've been beaten up." Like that actually didn't happen in that scene until like I think another 5 or 7 seconds later. So I basically, cut out some dead air and then I slid it over. So, if you're watching these videos on your own, don't expect them to move quite as fast. I really did have to trim this down quite a bit. So I didn't. I'm sorry. You look like the angry video game nerd is still funny, even though I'm watching this in in a video that's like maybe 4 inches high on my computer screen. I can still hear the audio like that of his computer loading up. It did not load that fast in game. I actually took out like 2 or 3 seconds easily. And like this one, when it cuts to Paul's face, like right there, Spoony doesn't start talking until like several seconds actually after that. I moved it up so it looks like, when the actor looks up, that's when Spoony starts talking. So yeah, I had to move through this stuff because this is there's Benzai. I wanted to stop and pause and mention like, hey, there's Benzai again, but I didn't have time. I was trying to keep this thing moving along. Just like what you would find in a 19 and this is one of the better, nobody else took this kind of effort really for a Let's Play back in the day. And I still today, I don't think, no one would do a montage to shake, rattle, and roll after they got done with the Let's Play. It's like, no, it's like, okay, thanks for watching my stream. Bye. Then like that would be it. Some don't work. But seeing that this is a 5-hour Let's Play, and the real actor of Curtis Craig, Paul Morgan Stetler, like he had just came out. He started coming out with this video series as I was creating the script for what I was going to do, and started the conversations with Curtis. He just happened to come out with that, and like his first video was like an hour and 40 minutes long. This chapter 1 video. It's like I have to watch it because I have to see if he mentions Spoony. This would be perfect for my video if I could include some footage of him, and I put that in there. And now if you look at that, he says, my bad, sorry about that, but he does kind of smile. I had to kind of cut relatively quickly, after he got done, but he does, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He seems like a pretty nice guy. He's pretty down to earth. So, he does kind of blame himself for the fall of FMV games because, he never had played any of them. He wasn't really big on video games, but he feels like, he was the reason that they fell out of favor is because, well, he was the main actor in a big FMV game. So he thinks it's all his fault. I always meant to go into one of his videos and mention it's like, no. It's the mechanics of the way the FMV games were done back then. Not having any kind of goals or list of objectives or anything. You would just blindly play it and you would have no idea, what you needed to click on or what, the magical item that you needed to have or click on or hear from another conversation. Like that's why people hated it. It wasn't, your acting is actually in the long run, not including all the newer FMV games that have come out, but like back in the day, your acting in this game is probably top tier, but I never got a chance to leave that message because I was working intently on this video and the other Spoony stuff. But I did actually on the launch day of this video, the top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler, I did comment on one of his videos that I had created this video, in honor of Spoony, and then I gave him time codes for the entire Phantasmagoria segment, and then also the little segment of his later on that I mentioned. So I wanted him to see all the footage from Phantaz too. So I had done that, and he actually he liked the comment, and he was one of the first people to actually comment on the video itself. He said something like, truly a legend in reference to, Spoony himself. So I hope he actually, was able to see the segment, because he had confessed himself, like, he only watched like maybe the 20 minutes of the first video, because ultimately Spoony is making fun of him and the project he was involved with. So, it's kind of hard to sit there for, 5 hours as someone is making fun of, your acting and everybody else that, worked on the project. I could understand that, but hopefully he got to see the little funny segments. Because I think he only watched like maybe 20 minutes of the first video, give or take. But he knew about it, so that was kind of cool that he also ended up doing his own Let's Play, of course, later on in the year. And he finished that, and now he is going on a Let's Play of Phantas 1 with the lead actress, so that was kind of cool.
Please tell me you're not the gatekeeper in drag, because you are all kinds of spooky hot.
Indulge me.
Yeah, I upped the audio so you could specifically hear the pouring out of the Mountain Dew in those segments. I made them a little bit louder than normal, because, that's just what you had to do. But yeah, I had like 25 minutes of Phantasmagoria 2 footage to use. Now called Atmosphere, the Harbingers. So yeah, it just so happened that the actual actor, Curtis Craig from the game, the real life actor, happened to be creating content just when I was editing this. So you might want to seek out a copy if you're interested. This one is actually designed by the same two guys. I always wanted to include the original Nightmare, but I really thought that this video was better. He goes through the other three expansions, and to be honest, in the audio commentary of that video, he actually says that there's like about 12 different variations of Nightmare / Atmosphere. All together. It's not just, the main game and then the 3 expansions. It's like, there's like a DVD version, a DVD re-release, not to mention the original VHS from, back in 92 or 93 when it first came out. But regardless of the technical limitations, this still remains to be one of the best reviews Spoony did based on the way he explains the gameplay mechanics. There are some funny moments, don't get me wrong, but the genius in this review. But, like sometimes I don't, you don't have time to stop and dwell on every little, 3 or 4 minute segment, like this. It's like I just have to get it in there. As you saw there, the name, the words of what and to shoot with the question mark from the segment, like right here, like they're actually cropped off. I didn't do that. That is what Spoony did. It seems like when he would go back and because like he's got kind of black bars on the bottom of his footage, kind of, and it seems like he would when he would recrop his stuff and like re-release it again, then or he would like maybe try to make a better quality version. He would end up resizing it without knowing all the words and stuff that he would have in his video. So yeah, he often would end up cropping the bottom of some of his reviews. Not all of them, but especially this one. Like later you will see the words game over, and obviously, game over is kind of cropped off at the bottom. But it's like I didn't do that. I really tried to have it, as full frame as I could.
Okay, one more time.
Here, honestly, when you're playing this game, like today on a 50-inch TV, seeing that bomb, pop down is actually much clearer to see. But back in the day, you're talking about a 19-inch TV. For the most part, we're gonna have 19-inch TVs. I don't know if 27-inch was normal yet. Not at the beginning, because 3DO was 1993 to and it basically ended by 96. So I'm gonna say no. I think 27-inch TVs became more commonplace toward the end of the 90s. But yeah, you probably would have been, most of us would have been playing on a 19-inch TV at the time. Maybe your parents might have a 27-inch TV, and I think mine did. So I actually brought mine out and I would play on it, but I didn't have my own 27-inch. That was a big TV, though. They were expensive. Some of them were. But so yeah, I would actually hook up to the 27-inch. Warrior #1. And this is the one. This is, if anything, this is the one what do you call it? You know, this is the one contributor video that deserves to be on here. You know, I mean, this was basically all scripted by Spoony. He came up with everything. You know, he wrote, you know, all the dialogue. You know, Linkara, you know, mentions that. But yeah, they still improvised some stuff on the day. But yeah, basically Spoony directed and wrote, you know, this entire thing. And he did so with the third one, too. And this is very popular. They ended up making this a yearly thing. You know, they ended up going through, you know, okay, as you may notice, the screen is now blurry and black and white. That is because the Ultimate Warrior is on screen, so, you know, that's what I had to do, so sorry about that. But yeah, it'll get Content ID claimed, you know, on the visual front if I leave it in there, so I'll end up having to take that out. But this was, you know, this was very, you know, very good. This whole way that this word is formed in front of you, like, this is pretty cool. You know, you instantly get it. But yeah, Spoony goes all out in this. And yeah, you know, it's a lot of costumes, a lot of other stuff, but he doesn't have to do it on his own. You know, he's got someone there, you know, and somebody else that's probably acting as a cameraman. And well, and they also have, you know, anyone that happens to be passing, you know, in the halls outside this hotel room. You know, they can grab some help, you know, from anybody. So yeah, it's, you know, this is clearly, you know, like Spoony wouldn't be able to do this on his own. But man, I was trying to, you know, find the right moments in this review to convey certain things. Oh, as when Doug ends up coming in here and he says, "Stop using ellipses!" Reordered the footage. So like he says stop using ellipses, and then Spoony starts to actually say the word ellipses as he's reading it, and I really felt like that should be flopped around. So I did that. And here I'm just trying to convey the fact that, you know, yes, it is Warrior 1 through 4, but it's 3 separate videos. And like I was trying to convey that within like, you know, 20 or 30 seconds that, you know, like, hey, this is number 1, you know, please check out the other 2 videos, but you're not going to find all the videos on Spoony. In fact, on Spoony's, well, his site is one thing, but on Spoony's YouTube channel, you can't find any of the Warrior videos. And I think Linkara has the audio commentaries for 1 and 3 on his site, but I think he's got number 2 because he's the one that wrote and directed number 2. So he's got that there. But yeah, otherwise, you got to go to 3 different sites just to watch all 3 of those videos, you know, normally. Somebody else might actually have them all now collected. But yeah, this scream, this infamous scream of him, this is the only time he ever screams like this in the history of him making videos. I believe I lowered it by another 5 to 6 decibels than what you hear. So I was trying to take it a little easy on your guys' ears, but even at the lowest audio setting for me doing this audio commentary, I admit it's kind of loud in my ears, you know.
Games with plots easily adaptable to the big screen.
He compares those actors. But yeah, Wing Commander, you'll notice that, you know, as we get up there, especially in the top 10, like the franchises that Spoony had the closest connection to is what ends up being, you know, that's what ends up being, you know, some of the best videos is the stuff that he had a much closer, you know, connection to. You know, a series that he loved or adored. And I always feel that way too. Like some of the, you know, the best stuff that you should write about, you know, really should be, you know, stuff that you know.
I just don't get it. The director of this thing was Chris Roberts, the guy.
And this is, you know, this really is disconcerting, you know, that Chris Roberts, you know, the same director from the games, you know, couldn't do a decent job. But, you know, in hindsight, we've heard several aspects of him spending money for no ungodly reason, kind of like with the Star Citizen game. You know, he is the director of that. A game that is what, like 360 million that he has spent on that. Like so far, it might even be more than that. And like the game still hasn't come out. It happens at the very end.
Look at the size of this thing! How do you accidentally fall into that?
Oh.
How does anyone mistake a black fucking hole?
You might hear me talk about drinking a rock star in one of the other videos. But I am back to Bang, so I don't have the extra added sugar. I'm not trying to endorse Bang, but I do. I have said before that I do try to stick with the energy drinks that don't have the additional sugar if I can. You know, like Monster and Rockstar. Well, normally I don't get Rockstar.
Scored even higher on this list.
If Super Mario Brothers was the first nail in the coffin of movies based on video games,
And that little touch of saying, like, you know, there's two other franchises that Spoony loves even more. Like, you know, I can do little details like that when I know, you know, what the final, you know, what the final list is supposed to be. You know, then I can start to make comments like, you know, about what order, you know, they happen to be. The video for Ripper ended up moving up, I believe. I think it was like in slot number 9 for a little while. And it's like, as I was watching these and rewatching them and watching them again, you know, and I say 3 times for every video that I watch, but honestly, you know, anytime I thought like, well, you know, like what's better? Is it the source or is it, you know, you know, something else? Like anytime I would think that, you know, that one video should maybe be swapped around with another one, I would rewatch them both. You know,
It's identical. Absolutely.
it's just like, it's still funny. I mean, seriously, there's not many Let's Plays that that work as well with Spoony. I really wish, you know, he never would have stopped making videos, but you know, it is what it is. But I really do like this. Ripper also, it's not on goodoldgames.com. You know, it's not on GOG.com. Still. You know, I mean, Take-Two Interactive owns it, but yeah, if you're gonna play this, you have to.
Business is booming. I heard that.
You know, there's not a newer version that's made to run better on modern equipment or modern computers. I do admit that the version of videos I used, because I had, for a lot of these videos, I had 2 and sometimes even 3 different versions of the same video that was on this list. And this version of this Let's Riff on Ripper is the best color version of it. Like the colors definitely pop out a lot better on this version. I had another one that was maybe it was a little sharper, but the color was much more muted, and I'm not exactly sure where every version came from, but I picked this one because it really did have the best looking video. You know, the colors were definitely more vivid. They weren't as muted, so I picked this one, and this really was the best looking footage. I can't remember if I stretched this or not. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, yeah, I stand by Ripper being higher up than Phantasmagoria, and I explain why. You know, I mentioned that, yeah, the setups and the situations for Phantaz 2 are, you know, they're great, but this is better. And you might notice that, like, I got like little details, like when I'm talking about, you know, some actors mumbling their lines. That footage in the background is literally the moment that the actor is mumbling a line, and then you see Spoony trying to type in, you know, something like Maximus Circus, and like that's the line that he specifically was talking about being mumbled by the actor. So like there's little Easter eggs like that in there, and like that's kind of how I would pace it. So like as I'm talking about something, like that's what would show up in the background. And you might notice that the exact footage of Paul Giamatti talking about going into the main character's girlfriend's brain and fixing it, like that exact footage is actually used when I'm talking about Spoony at the end of this video. You know, as if I'm trying to say, you know, I wish we could go into Spoony's brain and, you know, and help fix it for him. You know, so I got like little things in there, you know, on a different level for people that are looking for it.
then you're gonna be lost on several of the.
I had the other movie pop up because it's like, yeah, she's not just in one of the movies, she's in more of them.
And some probably prefer it when it comes to the content itself. You can't go wrong with.
Yeah, I think I also with Paul Morgan Stetler, I had done a time code just for this little segment here, so that he could watch it as well. Since I ended up bringing it up.
More laughs per minute.
Oh yeah, attack dogs, giant.
It's really a shame. I wish Take-Two Interactive would put this on GOG or, hey, make some money off of it. That's perfectly fine. 'Cause this is like a 6 CD game. I would love to play this, on a modern PC. And maybe someone's got a mod out there. I don't know. But, having to switch between 6 different CDs, and I really would like to have, better video quality.
My score was higher. Come on, go for the gold, Quinlan!
You're a funny guy, Sully. I like
But, I can completely understand why, if you're like 20 years or younger and you haven't seen a lot of these movies from the 80s, you're not going to get a lot of those references, Like that stuff toward the end. I mean, the reason why that Spoony says what he does is because, well, that actor was the one in The Warriors, and he said that exact same line. And like that actor also happened to be in Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he was the actor that was, being hung upside down, as Schwarzenegger said, his famous line, remember when I said I would kill you last? And then he says, I lied, and then drops him off a cliff. I mean, that was the actor. So it's like, if you didn't see Commando with Schwarzenegger back in the day, you might not get that reference. You might not remember it's the same actor. So, I can see why a newer generation might not quite get, the admiration that a lot of us have for Spoony. But you got to remember, Spoony is making this content, back in 2010. One of his biggest years is 2010 or 2013. For the most part, that's when he made a lot of content. You may have seen it parodied by Jay in Clerks 2. I remember this, I remember like other people were talking about like this scene. They had no idea it was from the movie Silence of the Lambs. Obviously, if you watched a lot of 80s movies, you would have came across the Buffalo Bill scene in that. And but some people, they don't know that scene for the original reference. They know it because Jay does it in both of these movies. And obviously Wild Horses plays in the background. But yeah, that's why they're not riffing off of Jay. And it's kind of weird for Family Guy to do that as well, but they did it. Show themselves replicating this particular scene in front of their fans. And then here's Spoony doing the full thing. It's like that was just a thing. It was the kind of thing that if I was going to make a YouTube channel, that's one of the things, one of the most iconic things for someone from the 80s or 90s to replicate is that, or the the thong that Sting wears in the original Dune movie, which Spoony does as well. I was going to include that, but did I ever clip that? I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember which video that actually comes from. I meant to use that at some point. Spoony with the look on his face of him wearing, basically the thong from the original Doom movie. I meant to throw that in somewhere, but I can't remember which video it came from. I had so much stuff, to use and to throw into these videos, so, forgive me on that. Like, this is one of his big, this is one of his big videos. You got special effects, you got shooting, you got the seahorses. This is probably easily, aside from Ultima, I mean, honestly, aside from Ultima 9 review, this probably is the second best video game review that he's done. But I gave it a little bit of room, and I threw a couple other things in there because I didn't want to go like right from one Ultima game into another Ultima game. That's one thing that, you don't necessarily tell people when you're making a list, but you do try to have, some variety in your list, and you try not to have, similar games or similar games made by the same developer all in a row. It's kind of like if I was going to make a list of, the best open world games ever, I would try to make sure that I didn't have, like 6 games from Bethesda all in a row.
you know, like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, you know, Skyrim and Oblivion. I would try to make sure not to have all of them, you know, all squished in together. You know, even though on a technical level, maybe all those games should be, you know, in the top tier of open world type games. But, you know, I would throw in GTA and a few other ones in there.
What the fuck is this?
This was probably the most.
This is, you know, this seems weird because right after saying that on a technical level, you know, yes, the Runes of Virtue 1 and 2 review really should be better than this. But I really felt like, you know, this was one of my favorites. You know, it was one of my favorites because, you know, Spoony played this game for like supposedly a month and he never got past the first level. You know, he just absolutely, you know, did not get very far in it at all. And he was trying to get this thing out before Halloween. And he watched the movies and he was, you know, trying to get all this stuff done. And then at the end, he just couldn't. So ultimately, this ended up being like a big failure for him. But it, you know, for me, and he also admits it in the audio commentary that, you know, it turned out to be a pretty entertaining video. Yeah, there was lots of little things, extra footage of him like watching the opening for the first time that I had in there that I just didn't have time to leave that all in there. You know, because like him watching the intro for the first time, you know, as a like so-called live reaction, it you know, it took like 40 seconds to kind of do that, even if I was going to trim it down a little bit. So yeah, you know, sometimes things like that just take it's you know, you don't have enough time when you're doing like a top 20, top 15, top 10 video. You know, you don't really have a whole lot of time to go through every little thing. I'm looking at my stuff. I had 22 minutes clipped from SWAT 4. Okay. You know, I spent a lot of time watching every main review and Let's Play, you know, like I said, at least 3 times through, including all the Ultima and Final Fantasy reviews, you know, all 68 Counter Monkey episodes, all the collaboration videos from the others, which there's not a whole lot. The audio commentaries, I listened to the audio commentaries also several times over, probably at least more than 3, because that's where I would find out like little, you know, behind the scenes stuff that I would end up using in these videos, as you've noticed. Because in this audio commentary alone, I probably mentioned things that Spoony has said in the audio commentary of a particular video. I probably said that about, what, maybe 7 times already? You know, like that's how you would find out stuff. I really don't like this. It's almost like a Dutch angle. It seems weird. It seems like we're at a weird angle, right, for that video. But yeah, the Pumpkinhead Revisited, it's a decent video. But ultimately, like, there's not really any humor. It's really just Lord Cat explaining to Spoony how you beat the game. And it's interesting, don't get me wrong, but it's not top 25 video list material. It's not that good. Yeah, one of the few moments of Benzai not being half naked. And this I'm basically mentioning just for the fact of anyone bringing up the fact that there is a 3rd video on the Pumpkinhead. You know, it's just an alternate ending. Like, that's all it is, you know. Even though it's on Joe copyright claim, it's on his channel, which, great name, by the way. But it's not, you can't find that video on Spoony's own site anymore for whatever reason. So I mentioned it there. You know, Robowar might be the only one that, you know, like, Spoony doesn't have a real close connection. You got to remember that this is the second video, the second Red Brown video that Spoony reviewed in total. So, like, he doesn't quite have the connection with the other Red Brown movies at this point. But I still, you know, there's still a certain, like those whole segments made by Dark Maze Studios with Ed Glazer. You know, they're great and they're awesome, and I always really enjoyed it. You know, some fans didn't like it or didn't necessarily, you know, get what it was. Spoony talks about, you know, maybe he didn't explain them better, or he said, like, well, we also shot, you know, our own version of the movie called Predaborg or whatever in the audio commentary. But I think it works well.
Why do they have nicknames?
You should know what the group is called.
Now, Spoony doesn't mention this, but if you look at the lips of the guy that's talking, he does actually mouth the word badass. But for some reason, for various reasons, when they redubbed his line, it might not be the same actor. I'm not exactly sure. They might have just assumed what he said, but then it gets changed to big instead of bad. But I mean, clearly, if you look at the guy's lips, he says badass. But somewhere along the lines, the script, got changed, or what he was saying got changed, and the guy just read in English what he was supposed to read. So,
who are you? I'm afraid that's classified.
Like this whole segment, it goes on like another extra 20 seconds. I wish I could have kept it in, but I had to trim. Good man. No. But like his little belly sticking out, the little powder puff blue shirt. This is great. Ed Glazer would go on to direct the two Press Start movies. If you find those, like they're fan made, video game style movies, but they're actually well done. But always have enjoyed Ed Glazer. But yeah, there came a certain point when you didn't really see him on the site anymore, and or he wouldn't necessarily work with some of these people from That Guy with the Glasses. But I always enjoyed his stuff. I really meant to check out more of his stuff. Or he always seemed like a pretty good down-to-earth guy. I mean, he is the one that introduced Spoony to. He was the one that mentioned that, oh, hey, that Red Brown guy that you did that one video on, he's actually made, this movie. So Spoony got introduced to this movie through him. I like this transition. I lined it up as perfectly as I could with the original footage. And this is actually trailer footage of the HD version of Robowar. And it's just amazing to see this kind of clarity on a movie that has been, like all you've seen is like a VHS copy that probably got recorded or re-recorded like 3 times, right? For the last 20 years. But it was really cool to see a newer version of that. This video from Red Brown, this is as is. I don't know if Spoony has necessarily seen it himself. I decided to throw it in here. The information you see on the bottom is true. So this came out like in 2020, or it was posted in 2020. When I originally had watched that little video of his message to Spoony, I actually teared up. I thought it was very endearing that the real Red Brown, not only knew the name of Spoony, but he also had watched, some of the Rebuary videos. I thought that was very, very nice. And but yeah, it put a tear in my eye. I'm a sucker for stuff like that. And obviously by 2020, his reviews on Red Brown would have been done. So him saying that I really missed Rebuary, I mean, yeah, he made the last review in 2016. So by that point, his videos on him were done. He had gone through all the available catalog. I'm looking at my stuff, trying to. Oh yeah, Final Fantasy X. That's right. Yeah, as I was, there was these. Don't go looking for these thumbnails on YouTube. They do not exist. I created them. The videos are still there. They should be still there, but they were just random images from the game itself. So I actually put Spoony's face. You can actually see on the Final Fantasy 13 that it's kind of a cropped version of Spoony. You see that light green background. It's like, yeah, that I didn't quite fill it in frame. I did put the time code on the other 2 videos. Yeah, this is the as I was talking about, this is the stretched video from the game. So like all the video from Final Fantasy X is stretched. One guy made a video where he corrected all of it, but then that I would have used that footage, even though he did it in HD, but it ultimately ended up, degrading the video quality overall. So I was just better off using Spoony's original.
Wearing fucking bat-faced Leonardo DiCaprio looking jack off. Fuck this guy!
And I mean hard.
Fuck him and his leather lederhosen.
Yeah, I blanked out a word before he says Meg Ryan. I mean, that's just, it's one of those things you don't say on YouTube anymore. You can go back to the original and hear it for yourself. But yeah, I took it out. I originally was going to cut the whole line, but ultimately, I was building up to something, and
I couldn't quite remove it, you know, without ruining my my cadence or whatever. So I figured I was just gonna, you know, I'll leave it in there, but I'll just blank out that one word. Outshine that review in every category here. The final battle has. But yeah, I mean, it's quite, you know, even when I was, you know, going through all the footage, it was quite evident that Final Fantasy X was the best out of all of them. You know, 13, he goes into a lot of detail, but he doesn't really bring the anger. And that's, you know, it's not his fault, but, you know, that's just what it is. You know, here he's got costumes. He's got, you know, he's got like 4 different versions of him fighting, I believe, in the final battle. Like there's 4 different versions of him in the same room, not including the Pumpkinhead guy. Times, write a script, and then sit down and try to find and edit all that footage together. But the end product has always been worth it when the name Spoony is attached to it. There's that footage again, and yeah, it's stretched, so it's a lot wider.
Fucking time he opens his big fucking mouth, I just want to stab him in the throat.
Oh yeah.
Just to watch him die. I hate him.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, look at that. He doesn't really get. Only Highlander the Source does he get madder than that. On camera.
I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah, I got content ID'd for this music in the background, even though it's an instrumental version of the Queen song, I believe. But yeah, it just, you know, it is what it is. I knew this video was gonna get claimed. You know, I wasn't trying to make money off of this main video. You know, I was trying to, you know, do the celebration of Spoony. You know, I knew I'd end up getting claimed on something, and then there's like 3 different music pieces that got used. You know, and the 2 WWE. So to have that footage from the WWE, you know, of the Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage, that was going to get claimed no matter what. So I never would have been able to make money off of this video. But, you know, it is what it is. That's why people have sponsors like Angry Video Game Nerd. You know, they have sponsors is because, you know, if you swear too much, your video gets limited ads put on it, you know, and that's going to hurt you. Destroy the Highlander franchise. Every decision in this movie not only goes against I'm looking how I treat. No, we're going to wait on that. I removed those 2 other side videos early. I already covered that. I already talked about organizing the videos.
Flaming barrel.
They changed the personality of the characters.
He's also the only man I've ever loved.
And you are?
They changed the relationship to other characters that you once knew. The Highlander anime is... Yeah, originally I was going to cut this reference even to the anime, but the whole point of having this reference in there is because I was trying to convey that in the, you know, that is the second best Highlander in the series is because, well, they stick to the rules, but in the source they break all the rules, and like that was the whole point of that. And the reason why the source sucks so much is simply because it's a Sci-Fi Channel original. You know, it's like that's why they don't have the Queen song, because like it wasn't your normal made for video, you know, sequel. You know, it never was in theaters. You know, it was just meant to be featured exclusively on the Sci-Fi Channel. You know, and if I don't know about the Sci-Fi Channel today, like, you know, 2020, but I know like in the late 90s and early 2000s, Sci-Fi Channel was a joke. They would have high-level actors, at least actors that were like, you know, 10 years out of the Hollywood scene for the most part, but they would take old high-level actors that, you know, and then put them in a movie that was like maybe a $500,000, you know, movie. And then the special effects would be garbage and everything would be garbage. And it's like, yeah, so clearly the reason why they're doing a cover to the Queen song is because they didn't want to spend the money on the real song, which, you know, quite honestly, you know, by the time that they were making this, you know, using a piece of music like that could cost you, like, especially for Aerosmith, you know, using one of their songs in your movie is, I believe it's an automatic $100,000, you know, just to use it. You know, then you're talking about the licensing after you bring it to home video and DVD and Blu-ray, you know, then they get paid again.
But yeah, I knew with Aerosmith, it's like, but hey, if you have, you know, a multi-million-dollar movie and the Aerosmith song is going to be exactly what you need at that exact moment, you know, you're going to spend $100,000. And that's, you know, that's with some, you know, some other bands might be $20,000, they might be $50,000. I don't know what Queen would, but you know, you can only imagine like how much Queen would do. But this was so terrible. I have no idea, like the mechanics, you know, of the people involved in this, if they had anything to do with the other Highlander movies, or if it was another film company that bought the rights to them. I'm not exactly sure. Or if they just had the rights to make one, you know, one Highlander property. You know, I'm not exactly sure about all the details. But I know I mentioned the line of Burton flying around shooting rockets. I only did that because of R2-D2 having his own thrusters in the prequels for Star Wars that, you know, we never see him use before that or after that. So I imagine Burton, you know, being able to fly around and shoot rockets for some reason. But no, that's not in any of Spoony's videos. That I completely thought about that. And I really love this. I love this introduction to it. I still get, you know, even goosebumps today, you know, when all I say is #1, and then you go right from Spoony screaming into the betrayal song. It's so awesome and epic, you know. And then, you know, after 10 seconds go by, I mentioned like the Ultima 9 review. You know, I mean, it was it really is the best. I mean, I wouldn't have done my due diligence. I would not be I wouldn't have any kind of clout in the community if I didn't get #1 right. I mean, clearly this is the best. Now, I believe some people were actually saying that the Final Fantasy X review was maybe his best overall. But I really think Ultima 9 is. Ultima 9 really doesn't have any kind of fat. You know, yeah, it's 2 hours long altogether in 3 parts. But I mean, you know, Spoony is very clear on what he is commenting on and all the faults that they did. There's probably, you know, he probably could have talked about the many things that they got wrong. There's probably like another 20 minutes of footage that he could have went on about. But, you know, 2 hours is pretty good. You know, he got through a lot of the main stuff. This arrow in the background, that's actually mine. If you see a red arrow, that is me. I just wanted to emphasize, you know, the fact of the sky and whatnot. But yeah, Spoony doesn't do that originally. There wasn't too many times when I would actually edit something else into the frame that Spoony didn't have there. But there was a couple of times. But oh my god, there was... You know, this was a big project. You know, this was the biggest multi-video project that I had done so far. You know, the top 20 advanced tips for Metal Gear Solid, that was 2 hours and 20 minutes with an additional 20-minute video on enemy preparedness. So, you know, 2 hours and 40 minutes total. But this, the 15th anniversary, was going to add up to just over 3 hours of finished video. You know, it wasn't a single video, but it was all for the same event. You know, the top 20 advanced tips for Metal Gear Solid 5, you know, that used 82 gigs of footage, but that was just for one game, and I had labeled all the footage by categories so I could find it fast while editing, although editing that video was about a month and a half of editing, and that's what this video took. This was about a month and a half of editing, you know, even with a job that I had, like, you know, three days a week still that I was working. And, but yeah, but for Spoonies, you know, I had a multitude of videos done in different styles, and I needed to pick out the best of all of them and put them in a list of best to worst, and then write out, you know, 400 words on each entry at least to justify why I put it where I did on the list. So, you know, yeah, that was a lot more work. You know, that this was, you know, even if I had this script that was all done and set in stone, this still took me like 5 months of editing and whatnot, and getting all the different clips from all the different videos, and then also finalizing the audio, and then, you know, making the video itself. You know, he did a lot of repeats actually on that one, but yeah, so yeah, this is the biggest project I've had. You know, hands down, you know, even though it wasn't one video, it was like 3 hours worth of content, which now has turned into, you know, when it comes to audio commentaries, it has turned into an additional 5 hours of content on top of that. But I wanted to get these words out, you know, before I would end up forgetting how I did some of this stuff, or how I, you know, decided to do some of the things in these videos. I wanted to get them into, you know, into an audio commentary, you know, for my own use, really, you know. But I was hoping that you guys would also enjoy finding out some of the behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, this is a lot of work. But I mean, Spoony is on par when it comes to, you know, calling these people out. That is the one thing about the, because he, you know, obviously he interviewed Lord British himself, you know, in those three interview videos, and he got the chance. And he doesn't actually mention to Richard Garriott, or he doesn't ask him, you know, like, who did you have in charge of, you know, the history or the lore when it came to this game? Like, why did so many things become wrong? Was it somebody else? But it's like, you know, I guess, you know, Spoony had, you know, only a limited amount of time with Mr. Garriott himself. So, but yeah, he never actually asked him, like, why did this turn out to be, you know, such a horrible game? You know, was it EA? I mean, he does kind of mention that EA was deciding certain stuff. But yeah, this was. Should I talk about? I'm looking through. I think I got through my other stuff. Yep, I removed those. Is there anything else? Oh, nope, that's the other thing. Okay, so let's talk about the big thing. How I decided to treat Spoony in this video. Like I was kind of inferring before, I redid the intro paragraph to this video about 4 times over the course of the project. Not that I threw out the whole thing and completely rewrote it, but I kept trying to convey a positive attitude about Spoony himself, but I wanted to be truthful about the situation. So above all, I wanted this to be a celebration of the man's work. I wanted a humble tone to it. There were plenty of videos that blame Spoony for all of his shortcomings, and they don't want you to forgive him. And they certainly don't want you to forget what he did. I can only imagine what it was like for people to give someone money on a Patreon, and then that person doesn't do what you paid them to do, right? I mean, that must really hurt. I do love that moment. That really is one of the greatest moments across all of his work. But, and it wasn't that I wanted to ignore that Spoony hasn't been honest with his fans when it came to certain things that he said, but I just didn't want to address it in this video. You know, this wasn't going to be another video that was going to tear him down. No, I didn't need another one of those. You know, my goal was not to make a positive video just in order to get Spoony to start making more videos. You know, that would be a selfish reason to make a video. And that was something I didn't want to do. So I threw that out right away. You know, to make a video saying like, hey, Spoony, I love your work. I hope you come back and make more videos because I want you to. That just seems kind of disingenuous, right? You know, it's like, I mean, do you really want to wish him well and have him get better? Or do you want him to make videos? You know, you can't have it both ways. You know, I can't make a message that does 2 different things at the same time. You can argue all you want about, you know, yes, you can. You can say, I wish you well, hope you get better, and please make more Counter Monkey episodes. But it's like, well, no, that's still, you still ultimately look like the only reason why you gave him a message was so that he would make more Counter Monkey episodes. You know, it seems like you're just trying to, you know, pat him on the back, like, hey, you did a good job, but, you know, we would like to see more of this. And that just, I don't like that. So I had to take that option off the table, you know, right away. I want him to make videos because he wants to, not because he feels obligated to do it. The worst thing to happen to an individual, and the most stifling thing to happen to someone creatively, is to force them to make content or make it feel like they are being forced to make content. You know, like that's
that's no good. It completely changes things. I got really, disheartened after hearing James Rolfe talk about in one of his videos that, he has a contract where he is, how did he say it? Not financially obligated, but I mean, he is required to make 2 videos every month. And it's like your heart kind of sinks because, I mean, he's not making that for himself. That's the other people that own him essentially now, right? They're the ones that dictate, what he makes and how things get done to some degree. But so like that's not really fun. And that's why I think people have had kind of an issue with the newer AVGN stuff. But I wanted to treat Spoony like a person. I can't really talk about, I will mention this whole Red Scorpion thing later in the trailers and whatnot and its whole creation. But yes, it basically is, it's basically the ending theme or the end credits sequence for the movie Red Scorpion. And I did it in this kind of style. Like, this is not in the original. It just fades to black and then you see the credits while, the Little Richard song plays that has like gunfire and explosions in the background. Like that's all it is. It's just, the regular credits. But I did these cutaway gags and whatnot, to the music. I always wanted to do this. For probably a decade, I've wanted to do a video like this. And now I finally get a chance to do it. But yeah, more details on that and its creation in the other audio commentary. But, so yeah, I just, I wanted to treat Spoony like a person, just like if everything had happened to me, what would I respond to? How would somebody else make me feel better? So I just wanted to deliver a message of hope, like, hey, Spoony, I love your work. I still watch your videos today. Hope you're doing well. I wish you the best. God bless. Something like that. That was it. No selfish desire, no anything added to it. No, hey, please do more Counter Monkeys, or please make more videos, or, I didn't want to do anything like that. It's like either I wish him well or I don't. So that was my goal. I'm not blaming you for the things that you did, Spoony. I'm not going to bring up those things just to piss you off. I made a fun video. I had fun making it. Enjoy. I don't make any snide comments at his expense throughout any of these videos. I don't make fun of him at any point. It's sad when you look at, what he's become now, but I can't make Spoony apologize to you. I can't make Spoony apologize to his fans. As a human being, all I can do is forgive him and move on with my life, So if enough people care about his well-being and Spoony sees that, maybe he'll make the steps to improve his life. Maybe he'll feel better about his current situation. Maybe he'll open a dialogue with more fans, and maybe, through that interaction, he won't feel as depressed as he once did. You might say, that's stupid, Stryker. He hurt me. He took my money. He doesn't deserve pity. Don't you dare take it easy on him. But look, Spoony is an adult. He knows what he did. He knew that there were things that he did that weren't right. If you want to keep kicking him while he feels down, then he's just going to ignore you, and he's never going to make any more content ever again. He's already at that point to begin with. So that's why I did this whole celebration thing. I've watched other videos that people have made on Spoony. There were a few that had been out before this. His so-called, he basically just did everything for a $5,000 scam. And there were a couple videos that actually came out during, I think, 2021 that I also watched. And there were some that I thought were very disrespectful. You had the creator of a video, and this could have been older than 2021. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus that did a documentary style look at Spoony in 2021. But I'm just saying, there was one specific creator that did a video on Spoony saying things like Spoony wouldn't have the guts to even do suicide by cop. And my heart really sunk when I heard something like that. I mean, since when does it take, guts or non-guts to pull out a gun on a cop and, point it at them in the effort to get shot? I mean, that is just, that's stupid. I mean, seriously, that's just when you want to throw your life away. Well, how does that have anything to do with having the guts to do something? that's not like standing up for your sister or brother or anything like that. So, and I've seen other people in comments say that they're just waiting for Spoony to commit suicide so they can finally stop hearing about him. It's a lot of this stuff that, man, if it was your brother, if it was your, sibling or a family member, it's like, really? I know the video's done. I'll put up some more footage of Spoony doing stuff in the background. But yeah, so those types of videos really, really would hurt to hear, like that's how they decided to treat him. And I figured like, I don't want to do that. So I decided to show him respect and, maybe, just maybe, like he could actually sit through my entire top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler, and there's nothing that calls him out. There's nothing that insults him or does anything like that. I just wanted him to be able to enjoy it, and it is what it is. If my message gets through, if he sees your comments, that's great. That's how I decided to do it. It couldn't be a backhanded approach for me to get him to make more content. And I knew that wasn't going to work. So I just figured, hey, I want to see him do well. I want to see him to be able to have a job, a good job, have his own place and, be able to provide for himself and his family. So that was it. That was my take on Spoony and whatnot. So sorry if it's something that you don't necessarily maybe want to hear, but there came a point when I wanted to move on with my own life instead of just sitting there and hating Spoony. It'd be different if I gave money to the Patreon. I would imagine that might hurt me even more. I never did, but I always wanted to see him come back, and it seems like that's not going to happen now. So.
This ain't over yet.
But yeah, like that, like when the guy runs away shrieking, "This ain't over yet." Like, isn't that kind of declaring hostile intentions? Why can't I just shoot him? But I don't do that. Why? Well, maybe I care too much, but I'm a good cop, damn it. Hey, oh, you want some? Suck this! Suck it!
And just one more thing before we go. In the first 2 minutes or so of this audio commentary, I did mention I was going to talk about how I was going to treat Spoony during the duration of these videos that were coming out, and I also was going to comment on whether or not I thought Spoony was ever going to return to making videos full time. So let's officially ask the question now in this audio commentary. Stryker, do you think Spoony is ever going to come back to making videos? Short answer, no. But long answer, no. I mean, in all seriousness, after going through all this content all over again and watching Spoony's demeanor, and that's why I wish the best toward him and any of his future endeavors. That's why I was saying, in my video to send your prayers towards Spoony, because outside of a miracle, I don't think Spoony is going to come back to making content the way that you would imagine. He might do a few live wires here and there, possibly. He might do some streaming, but it's never, ever going to go back to the way of doing proper Let's Plays and Counter Monkey episodes and having the sets behind him and all of that stuff. But yeah, I don't see him returning anytime soon. Like I said, aside from a miracle, which is totally possible. I mean, it could happen, and I'm not saying that Spoony needs to find religion. I'm just saying Spoony needs to find a deeper desire inside of him to push himself into, making videos or wanting to take on this mantle of, content producer again. I hope he is doing well. I hope he ends up finding a small group of passionate people about video games and board games that he is able to plug into and, get out there and mingle with other people and be social. And that was the best thing that I could wish for Spoony himself.
Spoony, you ignorant slut! That was last year! The wheels of science never stop turning!
I wet your pants. I'm not sure how.
And with that, we have finally reached the end. I want to thank you so much for watching any of the videos, for any of your watch time, for any of your likes, for any comments that you have left for Spoony. If you still do have comments in a positive nature for Spoony, please leave them in the main video, the main top 25 videos of Noah Antwiler, or the 2 other side videos. I don't expect Spoony to ever come to these audio commentaries. So by all means, if you have a nice message for Spoony to leave to him, not
Not that he would necessarily ever see it, but hey, you never know, right? I mean, in your little comment that makes something, that mentions something very specific, who knows, maybe that's the little thing that helps push him forward into, him helping himself. So you never know. So yeah, please leave those in the other videos. I still go through all comments. So if you have anything to let me know, or, any kind of criticisms you have toward my stuff, hey, I welcome all of it, whatever. It's no big deal. So hey, thank you so much, and we will see you on the next audio commentary.
I'm waving to you. I'm waving you goodbye. You are banished.